Today, we are going to talk about scaling. Having to deliver more when resources are scarce or that they don't follow up how much you have to scale. And I think that many of you can relate to the same thing. Already in that slide, there is an indication of having to do more. Can you see it? It's in the text, there. So I'm both the engineering manager and the product manager of the team. And a year and a half ago, I was only the engineering manager. And it's OK. I like a challenge. And it's also actually a good opportunity to review and rethink our processes from both perspectives, but also trying to optimize for well-being for everyone. So I'm Marion, and I work in Schibsted Marketplaces. In Norway, we have Finn as a marketplace that you might know, and I work in the mobility area. So that's where you can buy or sell a car, a caravan, a boat, a MC. So everything that has to do with mobility. So today, I will mention some tools, but it's not really about the tools. It's more about the concepts. So you will have to find the tools that apply to you and your setting. And one more disclaimer, I'm not here to revolutionize how we build software. I'm just here to help you and your team adopt some sustainable practices that promote both growth for your company, but also do not compromise well-being for the people you are working with. And I hope at the end of this talk, you can go away with at least one idea of something that you can do differently. And I will only talk about stuff that you can do at work, so it's not about personal well-being that you can do in the evening and outside of work. It's really what you can do at work. So it won't be rocket science, just some practical tips. So I'm going to talk about growth and well-being, and this can be measured in many different ways. And for our teams, what we have done is that we have measured their revenue, and we have measured the fun over time. And from my point of view, we have been quite successful at both of it. So scaling. Scaling is setting the stage to enable and support growth in your company. And you want to be able to both increase the revenue and the number of users without being stopped by the infrastructure and the resources that you have. So for our product team, it means that we need to build product that can support more users with a tech stack that scales. So you might not be so much familiar about Schibsted and Schibsted Marketplaces, but if we think about the story of Schibsted right now, is that we had a lot of brands. You have Finn in Norway, and then you have Blocket in Sweden, you have Tori and OIKOTIE in Finland, and you have DBA and Bilbasen in Denmark. And those are very strong brands, and Schibsted is a company that owns all of them. And they were all operating on their own system. But then we decided that if we want to be able to scale our offers, we really need to be working on the same platform. So we are on a journey to unify our platform to offer our services in the Nordics. And we have several verticals, so that's our different categories. So you have the mobility vertical where I work, and then you have real estate, re-commerce, and jobs. So basically it's where you buy and sell or find your new job. So for me, I will focus on the scaling our offer in the mobility area. And we can talk about product and offers in very many ways, but what we use is the jobs to be done framework. Because what we do is that we develop tools and services that help our user to get their job done. And I'm going to give you an example for you. Tonight, when you're going to go home and you're going to think about what I'm going to do tonight to get entertained, you have many ways of doing that job. You could go to Netflix. You could go for a walk. You could go to the gym. You could call your friends and family. You could do a mindfulness session. Or you could also party. There are parties tonight as well. Or you could go coding, whatever you like. There is many ways of fulfilling the need of having to get something done tonight, being entertained. So in mobility, one of the jobs that we help our users with is selling their car. So they want to sell their car, and they have many ways of doing that job. So they could go to Finn and publish an ad, or they could go to a local dealer and deliver their car and say, how much do you want for it? Or they could go to NetBill, it's another service that we own, where they can sell it, and then it will be later on auctioned. So several options and opportunities. But when you are not professional, I don't know how many have tried to sell a car or how many owns a car even, but if you don't know so much about the market, it's difficult to know what should I do. And it's overwhelming. So people don't know what is best for them and which service they should choose. So the same thing when you are thinking about what to do, you might benefit from having a little bit more information about, well, a lot of data points. For example, how much exercise have you done today? How much did you eat? How much screen time do you have? The rating of the show on Netflix you wanted to see? The last time you called your family and friends? Maybe the forecast for tomorrow, because if you want to go running today or tomorrow, maybe there's a difference. And then maybe your goals. What are you trying to achieve? Do you want to catch up on sleep, to be more active, or to learn something about the Cold War? I don't know. So maybe if you have this information and the goal, you can know what is the best solution for you. And that's what we do. We help people to take data-driven decisions and choose the best way of solving their job to be done. And we answer the question, which service should I choose, and what is best for me? So, how do we scale an offer? There is 3 ways of scaling an offer. You can solve similar user jobs to be done for similar users. So you can say, help me sell my car, help me sell my motorcycle, or help me sell my flat. So that's one way of doing it. Another way would be to be really good at one job to be done and do very related jobs to be done. So help me sell my car to a private person, or help me sell my car to a professional. Or help me buy a car. That's quite related, but it's very narrow. And then you will have different products, very specific for each of those jobs. Or you can do the same job to be done, but for different type of users. So for us, it could be for the private seller, for the pro seller, or for third parties. And we actually went through all 3 phases following the reorganization. So at the beginning, when Finn was organized horizontally, we will see it, we did similar products. And then when we just got reorganized last year, we did everything for mobility, pro sellers. And then now we do everything for every customer that wants to buy or sell a car on Finn. So first, we were organized horizontally, and we were serving 2 types of customers, the pro users in real estate and mobility. And then we had 2 different products that were quite similar, but very specific for the different needs. And then there was a reorg last year on the 1st of January. We were placed into the pro area in mobility. So then we had to give away our product that was for real estate, but then we started to develop a lot of other products for the mobility vertical. And then we realized very quickly that what we were delivering was not specific to the pro area. If you want to help people take good decisions on data, it's about buying a car. You can do that for both pro and private people. So according to topology, you kind of try to understand how you should be organized based on how you operate. And so we have end-to-end ownership of our product towards our customer outside of the organization, but we also have some services that the same one, so valuation, for example. We give a price for a car, we appraise a car. We also do that for some other internal teams. And that means that we are both a stream-aligned team, but also, and very importantly, a platform team. And that's how we got reorganized, again, as a platform team. And that kind of meant that we had to do a lot of products. So now we cater 4 different types of users: the car dealers, the private users, the partner, and internal teams. And they all need very similar decision support. So as you can see, the portfolio of product has grown quite a bit for those diverse user group. And what we are trying to achieve is product-wise to have, so we moved product-wise from one web standalone application to a lot of different products delivered on many different platforms that can be included on many different user journeys, and we also have third-party integration. Then customer-wise, we went from 1,000 users that were paying a subscription, that were pro customers, to now all the people that are trying or buying a car on Fin, and that's about 600,000 people yearly. And the next goal is Nordic, where you have 1.5 million users. So it's quite a volume of scaling for us. And we have not gotten more developers. You know, we still have this small team of 4 people. And I think it's a big challenge, but we're trying to find some good ways of dealing with that. And I'm pretty sure that's something that everyone is experiencing. Because, I mean, the tech industry has been going through some difficult times with a lot of layoffs. You have to deliver more values. And I'm a bit wondering if you have to, like, who here has to deliver more this year than last year? Can you raise your hand? It's almost 80%. I don't see so much, but I will say it's 80%. Good. And did you get more resources to do that? Ah, some people got more resources. Good. Lucky you. All right. But what I've also noticed, and I don't know if you have noticed as well, that there is more people that are burned out these days. And burnout it's an illness that is recognized by the World Health Organization, but it's only quite recent, actually, 2019. So what is burnout? So burnout is a syndrome from chronic, unmanaged workplace stress. So it's really because of work. And it has 3 characteristics: sustained feeling of exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, and feeling of personal inefficacy. So it's quite interesting because you are saying, like, we're going to put a lot of stress on people and they're going to deliver more. But actually, this is very counterproductive because before it was thought that a bit of positive stress will help you. That's not true. New research has found that any kind of stress is actually bad for focus, memory, and overall mental health. So not a good thing. And it decreases your productivity and increase burnout. 1 in 3 in Norway, but also in the Nordics, and also when you zoom in the tech industry, is mentally drained after work, weekly or more often. That's a lot of people. And 1 in 4 in the Nordic region is concerned about being on sick leave due to sickness, due to stress. And it's easy to believe that the management of stress only rests on the employee, but the environment is actually something very important. And at work, stress is either part of the culture or it's not. The environment has a lot to do with how you feel. And you might have noticed I'm French. I studied engineering in Paris, and I'm not from Paris. I come from the south of France. So we don't have a subway where I come from. And my first weeks in Paris were a culture shock. People were running to catch a train, even though you had one in 3 or 4 minutes. People were passing me by. They were walking so fast. And I don't know exactly when it happened, but I know that a couple of weeks later, I was walking as fast. And then it was Christmas vacation. I went back to my parents for 2 weeks, and then I went back to school. And I had slowed down, like really, really much. And people were, again, passing me by. But very slowly, but surely, I went back to be almost running for my train and catching it. So what I'm trying to say is that stress is contagious and heavily dependent on your environment. So let's talk about what are the measures of stress in the workplace and how you can build some stress buffer. So the first thing is about delivery and how much do you have to deliver. So the workload, sustainability, the amount of work on your plate, but also the control, the autonomy that you have over when, where, and how you do your work. Then it's about connection. So if you connect with your work, so that's on the value side, and community, if you have people around you where you have built strong relationships. And then it's about recognition and reward that can be both financial, so salary, bonuses, stock option, and so on, and social reward. So whether you are recognized and acknowledged for your contributions. And then there is fairness, the feeling that you are treated equitably compared to your colleagues. So now I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to assess where you feel you need to build some stress buffer. And we can do the first one together. So about the workload, if you feel that you can take a day off, that you don't have to work overtime to get your stuff done, that nobody is going to be reacting so much if you miss a milestone, then you have some stress buffer. But if you cannot take a day off and you have to work overtime systematically, then you have very low on stress buffer. I would even put 0. So you can go through this list and see where do you feel that you have to build more stress buffer. All right. Then, something happened lately. As I said, we are in a downturn economy. We get more to do. We have a hiring freeze, at least some of us do. And then in addition, you have cost-cutting programs. And it affects both the delivery and the recognition. And then on control, you have the post-pandemic recall to the office so that you cannot decide anymore where you want to work. So that has decreased the stress buffer. So the main message in this presentation is that while you need to produce more, you should look into how you can do it without pushing harder and making sure that you are still building some stress buffer. Because what we do naturally is that we want to push harder. You get a little bit more work, you just work a little bit more. Or you try to do it faster, and you're trying to push, and well, here you have to pull. But if it's slow and constant, your natural reaction is going to try to do the same thing, but just harder. But what you should be doing instead is really pausing and thinking about how you could do things differently. and evaluate different options. So working smart is about building the right thing and building them right, but it's also thinking smart about how you should do that and ensure that the processes that you build and the culture that you build will support those goals. So I've been rethinking how we work to build both value for our customer and stress buffer for our teams along those 3 areas, and we will deep dive in each of them. So first, good processes and culture. So as a product manager, you need to orchestrate how to work with product and which product we should build. And as an engineering manager, you need to orchestrate how the team will build the products. So it starts with your processes and culture. We do our best work in teams. And being a team is more than just being put in a group. Being a team is a group with connection, and you are usually connected on 2 things. It's the goal that you want to achieve, and then it's the connection with each other, so the social glue between people. And that takes time. Building meaningful connection takes time. It requires deliberate effort. You need to establish psychological safety and trust. So you need to know each other's, you need to know your values, your preferences. And you can do that in structured way. So I mean, we have used Team Canvas. We have been talking on our value in workshop. We do retrospectives. And we also spend some time together. And then you need to find your ways of working and iterate. So retrospective, again, are really good. But what we do in addition is that we do one-to-one feedback. So people have a scheduled session in their calendar to give each other feedback. And it could be both positive feedback, but also sometimes you have to give constructive feedback. And that takes time. Actually, what we want in the end is not that people have this one-on-one on their calendar. What we want is that they give feedback right away. But to be able to do that, you actually need to build the mechanism at the beginning and the habit and lower the pressure so that it actually happens when you want to have it. And then you need to have fun together. And this can be done a little bit every day. Yesterday I talked about playing. And that's one way. But you also have, we also do a lot of social things in addition to that. So when you build connection, you reduce stress because you build that connection with your work and your colleagues. And that's a good base for product development. So of course, we follow good practice in product development. And we know our customer, we understand what they need to do. We ask a lot. So we use this framework, and what this framework delivers is both connection to our users and clarity on expectation. So in the understand phase, we connect to our user by doing a lot of UX. We do a lot of interviews, and the whole team is invited to participate. They don't have to follow every single interview because it would take a lot of time for them, and we have a designer that conducts them all. But we really want them to at least be in one interview so that they get first-hand feedback on what our users are thinking. And then in addition, because not everyone is an expert in the car industry, I mean, I'm not very interested into car, I must say, I need to have people to tell me what's important for them. So we consult a car expert every month, and he comes and tells us what's happened. Tesla has decreased the prices, and China is coming up with a lot of new models, and that affects our dealer in that way. And that's things that I really don't follow so much on the news, so it's good that I have an expert that tells me about that thing. And they also tell, I mean, the whole team is attending those sessions as well. So we understand our user and the challenges they are facing. And then we have to prioritize what we want to solve, because there is a lot of stuff that we want to solve. So we have to say no a lot, and it's very important. And we also have a process for that, because if you don't have a process, it's a little bit, it's not transparent, and it's not fair. So we want to build that fairness and really value-driven product development. So we use OIKOTIE, objective and key results. If you want to learn more about this, you can read Radical Focus. But it's really about focusing on one thing that we want to do and how we're going to measure that we are moving the needle. So this process here is really important to set the expectation. And that's going to be helping you to manage your workload, because if people know what you are working on, and that's the only thing you're going to be working on, they don't come and ask you to do more. They're like, sorry, we're busy. It helps. And then we connect even more with our users. We do experimentation, and it's quite fun to see the result. We make some bets sometimes, what's going to be best. And we also have feedback form both places, so that we really understand what people want. So those two phases, they help with, again, the connection. But it's also about a culture, because you can run through a process. If you don't know what you want to get out of that process and what it is good for, you won't get the same results. So it's really about understanding why you are doing this process. And why we are doing this process is about building a culture of caring. We want to care about our users. We want to care about the impact of our deliveries. And we want to care about the organization and giving them a real clear expectation on what we are going to deliver. And we care about each other, and we give each other feedback. And we're also building this feedback culture, because feedback is important. It's important for us to grow and get better at what we do. But it's also a good way of getting recognized for your work. So for us, it's really important, those two aspects of the culture, so that we build both great product, but also that we deepen our relationship to our work and to our colleagues. So as a PM, like product manager, you need to decide how to build and what to build, while as an EM, you have to see how the team is going to work together. And the main responsibility actually is to create good processes and a good culture. And processes, they can sound boring, it's like, okay, we're going to follow this process. I mean, yeah, I hear you. But if you really think about the impact of the processes that you are building and why you are doing them, it can have a really good impact on people and on their stress. So now that we have good processes and culture in place, we can look into how do we build the right thing. So when you have a lot to build, let's say you have to build a new city, you need to see the big picture, and you need to have a rough plan. However, things are moving very fast, and as I told you, we have a car expert that tells us about the market. The market is moving in many, many ways, so we have to be having a plan, but it needs to be a flexible plan. And when you are building a city, it might not matter so much which house you start with, because anyway you have many houses to build. But you want to have a couple of things in place. You need to know the scale of each house. Like, you need to be aligned on the scale. And then, so that it fits together. And then also you might want to start with a house that is really important, that you will need in any case. Or you want to build a house that is very simple, because then you will learn how to build a house. So you have different ways of thinking about what should be the first one, but you don't need to have the full order of all the houses before you have your city. In addition, you might want to plan your work with small milestones and celebrate. So you can celebrate when you have built the foundations. You can celebrate when you have put some windows on the house. You can celebrate when you have made it waterproof. And then you can celebrate when it's done. because it's about appreciating the small milestone along the journey and not the final result only and the outcomes only. So let me show you how we do that in practice. So we took a product. So before I explained, at the beginning we were only working with our pro users, the car dealers, and then we were trying to work for the whole market. So now we were looking into private seller of car or private buyer. And we have this tool called Price Tips. It's a tool that has been there for 4 or 5 years. And for the last 2 years, nobody has touched it. So it did not get so much love. And it's a good tool that people really like because not everyone is, as I said, not everyone is a car expert. They don't know how to price a car. So you go to the tool, you put your number plate, your mileage, and then you will get an estimation of this car if you sell it on Fin or if you sell it on Netbuild, the auction site. And then you will have a benchmark, so a list of other cars that have been sold on the platform not so long ago, so that you can see how does your car relate to those. So the first thing we did is that we refactored it, like everybody does. And what we did, at the same time, we knew there was a couple of things that were not really nice. So we thought, OK, let's do some design lift at the same time. But we did not add any functionality. So that was beginning of January. And then we started to add features. So here we added a feature that helped people understand the relationship between the price that you set, the time it will take to sell this car, and then the cost. Because there is a lot of hidden costs in owning a car. I mean, you have your parking, maybe. You have your insurance anyway. And you have a lot of small costs that you might not remember. So we called it the standing time optimizer. It's not a really great name, but anyway, we don't tell that to the customer, so that's fine. And then we had to take a detour. And that's about the flexible plan, because sometimes things happen. And for us, what it was is that we got scraped a lot. There were some bots that we did not know about, and they were kind of requesting prices on a lot of cars. We had one user that was actually requesting 7,000 car prices per day. It was quite a lot. And we have a cost to this system because we buy data every time from another company. And basically, that one user was costing us 100,000 NOK a month. For a free service, that was not great, especially in cost-cutting times. So that kind of raised the priority. So we had to introduce rate limiting, which was fun. And we also had to modernize the landing page because marketing said, it hasn't been moved from 2 years, it doesn't look modern enough. So then we took a grayscale, and that's pretty OK. It's more modern now. All right, and then we went back into our plan on what we wanted to deliver to our users. And that was to add some understanding about the market. And as you can see, we have a placeholder where we have 5 cards. And we could have waited to have all our cards ready before we publish them, but we just decided that, OK, we will just publish as soon as they are ready, and then we can deliver value all the time. So we place the first one there. And then another problem that our users have is that they need to understand how do we price a car. And obviously, you are going to think the brand, and you're going to think the model, the year, the mileage, those things. But we get the data from an external provider, and sometimes the data are not correct. And they were very frustrated because they couldn't change if your model. So it's very specific. But if you buy a car at the end of the year, very often your model is from the next year. So you want to be able to change that. So we added an information page where you could change those different variables if they were wrong, and then we will get a new price. That also removes some hassle. And then a week later, we had our new card. We added that. We also added the feedback, because when you add a lot of feature and you still want to have feedback, well, you have to place as feedback several places. At least we thought we needed to have more feedback, because otherwise you have to scroll down to the bottom to get those cards. So we added a feedback card here in the middle. And then more information, the mileage distribution. And as you can see, the pace of deployment is quite good. And then we wanted to make our insight accessible to everyone, because first, it's difficult to read graphics. Not everyone is an expert in statistics. But also, graphics are not good in UI. People with vision impairment cannot read them. So if you transform them as text that is understandable for everyone, it's much easier. So we had our first little AI product on production as well, which was another call for celebration, of course. So the team is doing an incredible job, and we could have waited until the end to celebrate, but we just thought we need to celebrate much more often, and that's what we do. We release often, and we celebrate often. All right, another thing that we do to help with the workload is that when we start to develop something new, we try to not reinvent the wheel. We recycle, we reuse, and we adapt. So we had a tool that was working very well for the pro market, and we recycled it into splitting it up in smaller tools and reusing some part of it in different user journeys. So it's kind of, we went from the Swiss knife to a lot of specialized tools. So let me show you how that works in practice. So when our car dealer needed to understand the competitiveness of a car, they would have to go into separate, they would have to go on our web application, desktop only actually, and search for some prices. So they would go into the tool, and then they will scroll down to find where they could input the car. I took a Volvo V90. So usually it's when a customer comes to the shop and say, okay, do you want to buy my car? And he needs to understand very quickly, is it a good car or not? Some people know about all the car, but some people don't. So then we have this insight about how many cars are on the marketplace. And then we change that by putting it in a place where they know and they are actually using. They already use Fin to search for car. So in their search, when they search for cars, they can now also get some information. So they go on Fin, on mobile, they find the cars, and then we have this small integration where we show them the numbers. So they can see how many cars are sold, and we also have this map where we show them if it's a good place to find. Where is it going to be the easiest to sell the car. And dealers, they also buy cars on Fin, and when they want to see if this car is interesting, before they will again have to go into this separate application. So they will be on Fin, they will find a car, they will find the registration number, and then they will go into a separate tab, and they will search, write the registration number, the mileage, then select the right type of car, and then they will have all their insights. So it's not a bad tool, but it's just a different user journey. And then what we did is actually when you go on Fin now, the dealer will be able to open a car, which they do anyway. And then instead of changing places, they will have this little integration where they see the same information about the market. And then, of course, they can go into the tool, the separate tool as well, that we have made mobile friendly now. and then they will see the exact same information. But then it's for their filtering, when they are looking at cars quickly on film, they don't have to change tab, search. They can just check, do I want to go deeper into this car, yes or no? So they can do that all day long, or maybe we will introduce some rate limiting or some price differentiation, we don't know. But the point was that we reused what we had, and we placed it where they needed it. And we did not reinvent the wheel either when we went from the pro market to the private tool. You can see the distribution is very similar. We knew it was a good feature. We knew it worked. We tested it with UX in interview. People said they liked it. We implemented it. And then same thing. Now we are selling our data through API, and we're just selling our own data as well, the same as we use on our website. So as a product manager, you are responsible for building the right thing. And to have a positive impact on your team, you need to be conscious about not reinventing the wheel and to be focusing on building upon, reusing, and adapting. So that help with the workload management. Also having a flexible time plan can help you and your team to have very much control about how do you want to work? Which part of the elephant do you want to eat first? And then, in time of scarcity, small gesture and some celebration. Yeah, I did not say what we do. So sometimes we cut a cake, sometimes we buy ice cream. Sometimes I write on the Slack channel for the whole mobility area. I write what we have delivered, so people get this feedback and appreciation. And that's just good team management, really. So now we're going to talk about tools and approaches. Because building things right is about choosing how do you want to build them. So for us, we change a lot of things on how we work. But one of the biggest change was to go from querying our data bases, because we have several databases in our application, different places all the time, and rewriting the code for that, SQL, everywhere. And then we had also developed an external API for our external partner to use, to actually go API first. So now, everything that we build goes through API. So we go and get our endpoints. And this is great because first we have it's simplified architecture. We only have one gateway. We have better documentation because when you're trying to sell something to people, you usually tend to explain it a little bit better than it's just for internal use. Then we find bugs faster because then it's not just us consuming the data, it's our customers as well, so they see it right away. And then we have a very fast to market when we want to sell more data through API. If we have the right price, which is a little bit difficult to set, but that's another topic. And we also don't duplicate effort in the front end. So we are building a component library so that we are able to reuse our design in different tools. So here you can see before we built that component library, we had the visualization of an ad, and before you want to go see an ad, you want a couple of information that are very important, and that would be the model, the brand, maybe we call it the variant, so a little bit more details, and then the production date, and so on, the fuel type. And you can see they were very different. Look if you were in the private tool and in the pro tool. And then we didn't have, if we wanted to give access to the data, we could give access to the backend, so through the internal API that we had before, or now the new API. But then people will have to build again the same thing. So now we build a component library, and it goes faster for development, but it's also for the other teams, especially not us, but but for our internal products, it works faster, and then it helps the whole organization as well. For us, it works to have a component library because we have multiple similar products, and we also operate as X as a service. So I'm not saying that everyone needs to build a component library, but it might work for you if you are in a similar situation. Anyway, not duplicating the effort in your team is always very valid. So another thing that we did is that we changed our backend entirely. And the reason for that is that so our backend application was written in Go. And it's not about not liking Go. It's more about having access to help. And in Fin, as you can see, the top languages have always been Java, I know. And then it has been there has been an evolution with Kotlin that was ranked number 11 in 2018, and that is now the second most used language, while Go stayed at the 20th place. So it's not that widespread, and when you want to get help from the wider organization, it's much easier to ask when you have a similar backend. And actually making that shift last year has a really cool impact this year, because now I have one developer that is on parental leave, and then I can just get help from another team, which I wouldn't have been able to do if we had stayed in Go. And then another good thing about migrating to Kotlin for us is that we can leverage our team better. So we have two full stack, and we had two front end. And for us, we do a lot of things in the back end as well, and we needed some of the front end to be full stack as well. And it was much easier for them to move to back end when you have some similarity in the language. So again, this is a tool that we have chosen. It might not work for you, but the idea is that you need to find some tools that help you get help from other places. We also switched to, well, let's call it a homemade solution with copy-pasting of pieces of code to get documentation, to having some real, more professional API environments, so with OpenAPI and Swagger, because then we have our documentation that updates automatically every time we make a change, which is great when you don't have so much time to work on that. So no more manual maintenance for the documentation. And then, of course, you couldn't have a presentation without talking about how do we use AI. So we have been using AI tools. So we use use Copilot in GitHub, and that increased the coding productivity by over 100%. And sometimes it's really fast, right? But we also increase the productivity by using ChatGPT on other tasks. And you are like, over 100, but then about 50%. Why is that? Well, because you don't spend your day only coding, right? You do other things, and you still need time for that. So your overall productivity increased by 50%, which is great. And you're going to ask, but how do you know that? Well, we track velocity, and that has increased by that amount. I also wanted to show you another example of how we use ChatGPT in other tasks. So, for example, for architecture, when we need to build a new invoicing system on our API product, we just starting a prompt with, help me create an architecture for an invoicing application taking place in a Spring Boot 3 application and Kotlin. I want the solution to adhere to the solid design principle and be idempotent. And then you have a lot of scripts more. But what is really cool is that then we got a mermaid diagram code that we could just put into GitHub, and that was done. So building things right help a lot with workload management. And obviously, when you think duplication of effort, it's obviously a bad thing, so you don't want to do that. But it still requires a lot of work to migrate to a lot of different tools. One we could do also here, there is some stuff we could do better. So for now, we have changed our backend, we have changed our front end, and we are considering changing our databases as well, because we still have a duplication of SQL in some places, and we could move it to different places, like in Snowflake, for example, and get that better, and also get help from the organization, because we have also, when we prototype, we use data scientists outside of your team, so it could be helpful. But for now, we haven't done that. So we have been focusing on changing tools where we could really get a big gain in productivity. So does it work? I mean, it's a lot of time that we have invested. So it's a fair question to ask, is it worth my time to do that? So we have doubled down on the processes and the culture, and that consumes a lot of time. I mean, as I said, it takes a lot of time to build meaningful connections. It takes a lot of time for the developer to attend a 1-hour interview with a user. But I think it works. We're also saving sometimes by removing some duplication of effort. So time consumption is the investment here. And sometimes you need to go slower to go faster. That's really what I want you to remember. So we kept our user happy. If you don't know the Net Promoter Score, so it's a measure that is measured on one question. You ask people, would you recommend this product to others? It's on a scale of -100 to 100. Good products are about above 0. 20 is already great. Between 20 and 50. Above 50, it's amazing, and above 80, you are on the top percentile. So we are very happy, and our users are also very happy. And they also love the integration into feed and all the extra features that we developed. And then we got new users, so those private users, and we started to develop. We took over the tool and made our first release in January, where we only had the exact same features. And then we started to add feature incrementally from end of February. And you can really see that the ease of pricing has increased quite a bit so far. And then, well, it's also worked financially. We have increased our revenue and doubled our revenue every year, so that's good. It was stable organic growth since the beginning, but now we also have this API market, which is starting to yield fruits. But most importantly, the team is quite happy. We've been tracking fun over time for a long time, and it's quite stable. And it should continue to be stable, obviously. So we went through pretty many ideas on how to build stress resilience in your teams. And now I would like you to look at the list and pick one thing you want to do and suggest for your team on Monday. So as you can see, building good processes and culture is the one thing that will have an impact all over the board. Building the right thing with reusing and the planning and the way you release often will also have a good impact on the workload, the control, and the reward. changing tool and building things right will only have an impact on the workload. So depending on where you want to build this stress buffer, you can do different things. Again, if you have to remember one thing only from this presentation, is that the more pressed you are for time and the more stress you feel, the more it is important to take a pause and rethink and think, should I do this the same way or should I do it smarter? So I warned you it was not rocket science. It's just about thinking a little bit harder about how to work smarter and adopting sustainable mindset in product development and engineering to make more connection, more delivery, and more reward for your teams. That was all for today. Thank you.